Whenever there is a major celebration in Nigeria, you find all kinds of reactions. Nigeria will be 57 years old as an independent entity, where we have consistently said that the indivisibility of Nigeria remains sacrosanct. Precisely on 1st October 2010, Nigeria was 50 years as a sovereign nation state. That day called for, within that period called for a lot of reactions and counter-reactions by Nigerians. A lot said, what have we got to celebrate 50 years after independence? That day I read an article from an online publication. It was titled, 50 years after independence, what are we celebrating? That was on 1st October 2010. 1st October 2017, Nigeria will be 57 years as an independent entity. Will we say we don't have anything to celebrate? That would be what would be sustained on the discussion segment on Insight today. I have to discuss this. Austin Braimoh. Austin Braimoh is the chairman, Buhari Media Support Group. Thanks for joining me on Insight.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
I also have the public affairs analyst, Chukwudi Enekwechi. Thanks for joining me on Insight.
Thank you for having me on the program.
So, if 50 years, the opinion was we have something to celebrate, we don't have something to celebrate. Now we are 57 years moving on. Have we done well?
Yes, absolutely. We've done well, and I think we have a lot to celebrate. It's a matter of opinion. Some people will say, oh, what are you celebrating at a particular age? Some people don't even believe in celebrating birthdays or so. So issue of celebration, to me, is a kind of gratitude to your creator or to those who supported you to get somewhere. And so when you say you celebrate, you are celebrating. You are just saying, thank you, oh Lord, thank you, all of you who have helped me to get to this level. So looking at it from that angle, Nigeria has a lot to celebrate at 57, particularly at 57. I liken the emergence of nations, a nation like Nigeria, to childbirth. And you see, childbirths follow different patterns. There are babies that spend 7 months in the womb, and you say they are premature. They come out all the same. Some babies will spend 6 months in the womb and they are giving birth to, and through medical help, they survive. Some 8 months, you say, oh, normal birth. Some 9 months, you say, oh, little abnormal birth. But they come out all the same through medical assistance, and they all grow. You find that sometimes, even those with stillbirths who survive, some with premature births who survive, outgrow those who had normal births. So it all depends on how these babies were cared for from childhood till they become adults.
Okay, let me hold you there.
Yes.
Chukwudi, do we have cause to celebrate? Let me sustain the same question with you.
Yes, I believe we do have cause to celebrate. Even if for this mere fact that for 18 unbroken years, Nigeria has experienced democratic governance. It's something to be grateful to God for. It's something that Nigerians need to be celebrating, because it's not an easy task to build a nation. Nation building is a continuous process. And then at 57, Nigerians have to roll out the drums and say, yes, we are maturing as a nation, we are maturing in democracy, we are maturing in good governance. And if you look at the trajectory of our growth, you can see that perhaps before 1970, we had maybe less than 10 universities. Today, I don't know, many of it's uncountable. The universities we are having both in both the public ones and then the privately owned universities. So there are different areas you can say that Nigeria has made some advancement, and that is the reason why perhaps we need to celebrate.
Okay, an advocate of aging talked about the fact that age comes in bands, that you're 10 years old, you're aging, you're 20 years old, you're aging, 40, aging, 50, aging, and 57, yeah, aging. You can't come back. You can't. You just have to move forward. Now, there was a trend when Nigeria clocked 40. They say life begins at 40. And now Nigeria clocked 50. There was a trend then. At 57, there was also a trend. And let me give you this cue. So much noise has been made, and government has gone to the trouble of trying to work on the mindset reorientation of Nigerians. So much talk about restructuring, so much talk about the need to redefine the sovereignty of Nigeria. So much talk about the need to look at the amalgamation to date. So given the fact that the trend today is more or less, for me, a paradigm shift or a turning point in the nation's political history, what should we be looking at as a people?
Correctly, if you use the word paradigm shift, or like some people will say restructuring, we may just be driving towards the same point. Like I tried to analyze in my opening statement, that nations go through the same process as human beings during childbirth. I want us to look at Nigeria that way. So at a point in our history, you say, oh, you are 50 and 50. And so you are fatter than me, I am slimmer, or you have outgrown me in certain, maybe you are more intelligent, or you are physically stronger than me, and so on. But we were born the same year, but not under the same condition. So people tend to compare Nigeria as it is today to America, or Britain, or France, or Germany. So, and when we're doing that, we forget that we were not giving birth to under the same condition. And so because of that, people always tilt towards the fault lines. And looking at only the fault lines in our evolution makes it difficult for us to define the areas we need to adjust to be stronger. Okay. Whether it is our diets, whether it is our clothing, or our sleeping hours, or our whether we should add more hours to our work. We look more towards our fault lines, forgetting our history, how we evolve as a nation. I think before we begin to really define and look at areas to adjust and to improve, we need to really look back and look at how we started. And it is very important, like I mentioned earlier on, how did we evolve as a nation? Until we look back at our history, and we must know that we cannot compare ourselves with Britain. Even in Africa, a lot of countries cannot stand where we stand. So we've made a lot of progress. We've come a long way. I'm happy that my colleague, Chief Enekwechi, is also of the same view with me that Nigeria has a lot to celebrate. At 57, we have quite a lot to celebrate. But in going into this celebration, we really need to sit down and retrospect. Look at our beginning. Look at where we are right now. And where are we going from here? For us to go from here, we must begin to de-emphasize our fault lines. We must begin to look at areas of our strength. Where have we gone wrong? Yes, you must fall and stand. So we've gone through a lot of processes of nation building, and they are evident. We've been lucky to have the kind of president we have at this period. America went through a recession. They were lucky to have had an Obama who did a lot to bring them out of recession. Nigeria went into a recession, and Nigeria is lucky to have a Buhari as a president that put in a lot here and there to bring us out of recession. It was not easy. If we had had a president who had no integrity, who had not got all what it takes, like Buhari, we would have been going deeper into recession, and then this country would have disintegrated eventually. So we are lucky as a nation, and we have quite a lot to celebrate. And we need to look forward to a greater Nigeria from this year to next year, and so on. A lot for us to smile and laugh about, and even pat ourselves on the back.
Okay. So in specific terms, what should we be looking at as an independent entity?
You know, like I said earlier, society, a country, Nigeria is a work in progress. And going forward, I believe that the expectations of Nigerians will be met, basically in terms of infrastructural development of the country. These things are key to ensuring the happiness of all citizens. And I'm glad to say that looking at the program of this present administration, they are in the right direction. They are proceeding in the right direction. For instance, when they try to revitalize dilapidated infrastructure across the country, whether it's in roads, whether it's in the railway sector, or whether it's in agriculture, or whether it's in the case of empowering the youth through what they call the Empower program, and even the cash transfer policy of the federal government. So you see, there's a holistic approach, holistic policy by the government to ensure that going forward, Nigerians will have cause to be proud to say we are Nigerians. And this is very, very important, because without development, it appears that development is a kind of correlation. It has correlation with the kind of mood of the people. If the infrastructural facilities are not available, it kills morale. It makes people appear to be hopeless, and then then government will not be appreciated. But now that the government is focused on delivering most of these key developmental projects to Nigerians, I think Nigerians will once again realign themselves to the hopes and aspirations of the country.
Okay. When celebrations like this are holding sway, people are looking at government. Let me go back to a question I asked earlier, but maybe it was not properly addressed. What should Nigerians be doing now?
Nigerians should be looking at our areas of strength and not our fault lines, like I said before.
And which are these areas?
Yes, there are so many. Nigeria is the most populous black nation in not just in Africa, but I think in the whole world. The most populous black nation in the world. And Nigeria is a big market. We can produce things that we eat. We should be able to, if Nigerian, just like the Israelis, if we use only our brothers and rely only on ourselves, we are enough, we can produce enough to lead the world, not just Africa. Like the Israelis, they will buy from their friends rather than buy from others. Even if your product is substandard, they prefer to buy your own, because if they use their money to purchase from you, you grow bigger and you support them.
Well, we don't have that mindset in Nigeria.
We don't. Well, we need to.
So how can we work on that?
That is the challenge that we have. At 57, we should sit back and tell ourselves the truth. We should stop looking at our fault lines. Nigerians are Nigerians. We are better for it. I'll give you an example. Well, what should we be looking at? Who is Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, and all that? Instead of thinking of how to strengthen the relationships we've had. I like looking at, using myself for example. We started, oh, you are from here, you are from there. I am from the South-South. I was born in the Southwest. I schooled in North Central. I worked in Northeast. Got married in Northeast and had my children in Northeast. I had most of my best friends from the Southeast. So where am I from? So we have so many things that unite us, so many things that bind us. Things that bind us are more than those things that divide us. So that once one is found, when any of us find himself displaced from one position or one economic podium, we begin to exploit the fault lines of the nation to try to make himself, entrench himself. Those are the areas we need to address. We need to emphasize our areas of strength. Nigeria is a united and indivisible country. When people say, oh, it can be divided, they do so just because of either economic or selfish interest. We bring in religion and so on and say, oh, we produce. Who are you? What do we produce? 57 years was not by accident as one country. 57 years was not a coincidence. Nigeria is not living as a nation by coincidence or by accident. People need to realize this and know that we are better as a nation. Look at any of our national team. You cannot do without one part of the country in the team. Each time we have a well-represented team, you see our performance. And whenever we are in any competition, there is no question of whether Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, no regional sentiments. We all rise in unison to applaud our teams.
Okay.
These are the areas we need to strengthen.
Okay. If we say we want to, on 1st October 2017, we'll be 57 years old, what are those things you think we need to look at, either to adjust so that we move a lot better, like Braimoh said?
Well, thank you, my brother, Mr. Mini. I recall that when the president returned from his 3-month trip to the UK, he made a brief speech to the nation. And he acknowledged that there were grievances in this country. But he also quickly offered a panacea for this kind of grievances by asking people with grievances to approach the National Assembly and the Council of State. So that opened the window of opportunity for people to ventilate their feelings or their reservations about whatever in the polity. So to that extent, I would say that this administration has demonstrated good faith and open and ready to and willing to, be open for discussion, because, like I said, Nigeria is work in progress, and by the time we keep discussing in a democratic setting such as we have now, then there will be opportunity to resolve all the differences that may exist. So I think that the government is working assiduously towards ensuring that all parts of this country are well catered for. And the basic thing to do, as I've already enumerated in my previous analysis, is to provide basic things of life. When those basic things of life are lacking, they will naturally agitate the minds of the populace, and the people will begin to feel isolated. But gladly enough, this government has rolled out several programs that are aimed at addressing those, maybe if you call them infrastructural deficits, if you call them socio-political problems. Government is working hard. The President Muhammad Buhari administration, from my own observation, is working hard towards addressing those areas of concern.
Okay. Now, when Nigeria clocked 50, somewhere they used the 50 years of Nigeria to judge Africa. Side by side, what would be your assessment of Nigeria's leading role in the African continent?
Quite impressive. Quite impressive, because we have not shirked our responsibilities even in the face of recession. What people normally judge easily with our position in Africa is that, well, Nigeria has the largest population of blacks, let me just put it that way, not the largest, most populated in overall, but they look at the resources we have and believe that with the resources we have, both human and material, we should go to behave like Britain, France, and America. But we have not done badly, because America is over 200 years as a sovereign nation. We look at France, Britain, Germany, we forget that these nations are over 100 years. So it's only within Africa we are talking of 50, 57, 60 years. So we are still evolving. So if you look at African nations are quite young and youthful.
I'm looking at in terms of the leadership
role, yes.
of Nigeria.
Nigeria has been pivotal, both in ECOWAS, sub-region, and in Africa. We have played our part, and as we are talking now, Buhari is the flagship, the president of Nigeria is the flagship of African anti-corruption crusade. The AU has just picked him as the flagship for leadership, is to provide leadership for the anti-corruption battle in the whole continent. It's quite a commendable thing that for the first time an African leader of Buhari's caliber is picked and used as the flagship. And we have done quite commendably. If you look at our role in AU, even if it is not even peacekeeping, we have our initiatives in the health sector. We have been leading. We have provided leadership in the finance sector. The ADB is an African. We have provided leadership even in OPEC, which has quite a lot of African countries in it. You know our leadership in ECOWAS. Without Nigeria, there is no ECOWAS. I think overall, the African leaders are quite they are quite happy that Nigeria is a good leader, is providing the right leadership, both in terms of men and resources. Okay. I think we are doing quite well.
Early this year, the Peace and Security Commission of the African Union commended Nigeria's effort in putting in place the Joint Military Task Force 4 in the onslaught against Boko Haram. And moving forward, given the mileage covered so far by the Nigerian military, what else can be done to cover more grounds as we mark 57 years of independence?
Well, first of all, let me acknowledge the fact that the military said they have degraded the Boko Haram terrorists, and that's impressive. I also recall that 106 Chibok girls were they were eventually rescued from the Boko Haram. I also recall that about 10,000 abducted persons in the Northeast were also rescued. And we must have to give credit to President Buhari for providing that kind of focused leadership. And then I believe that is a continuous process. The process of restoring peace and calm to the northeast is an ongoing process. And Nigerians have heaved a sigh of relief since the assumption of President Muhammadu Buhari, to the extent that we are no longer under imminent threat from Boko Haram. Okay. So I think that I give credit to the president for this kind of focused leadership. And I believe that going forward, they will continue to sustain the peace being witnessed today, not just in the northeast, but across Nigeria.
Okay, you can't rule out opposition. You can't rule out people who always will say the government of the day is not doing enough. But recently, U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Symington, said that if only Nigeria and Nigerians, the institutions put together, would look at its strongest points, looking at its diversity as its strongest point, that is the strength of the United States. So how best can we utilize our diversity to move on, in a few words?
Yeah, that is the area of focus. That is what Nigerians should be looking at within these next few days. What we are talking about, when people talk of restructuring, for example, what should we be looking at? Those should be the area we should be looking at. How do we look at our diversity, area of our differences? How do we extract strength? How do we synergize and bring the best in us? Okay. Those are the areas we should be looking at. So when we're talking about restructuring, this government is already restructuring, economic restructuring. It is not until when you're talking of devolution of powers, it has to be done in a way that economically we can optimize the use of those powers for the benefit of the masses. Okay. So, in fact, this country is already doing it. Like you were mentioning in terms of ECOWAS, Nigeria provides electricity in spite of the dwindling production of electricity in Nigeria.
I have to hold you there.
Okay.
Austin Braimoh. Okay. We'll be having a chat looking briefly at Nigeria at 57, and we believe by the time we'll be discussing Nigeria at 58, God willing, we'll have a couple of mileage to cover. Yeah. I've been talking with Austin Braimoh.